hey, so it's possible the end of taco could be here, or this is a symptom of Trump not actually being able to negotiate trade deals. I'm not exactly sure which is worse. So in the end of taco scenario, we have this potential we've been talking about on this channel of Trump getting encouraged by a high stock market. In other words, when the stock market crashes and bonds skyrocket and everything feels like it's going to end in the financial world, Donald Trump ends up chilling out, like what we saw in April. Jamie Dimon's blowing up his phone saying, hey, you're about to blow up the financial system. Donald Trump, quote unquote, chickens out, or essentially imposes a 90-day pause. Markets recover, go to all-time highs. The great thing about that is we recover to all-time highs. The downside of that is the risk that what we do is we license to Donald Trump this, hey, you have a lot of leeway here. If the market falls 10%, who cares? We're still higher than the lows since, we shot up, 25, 26% on some of the indices, like especially the Russell 2000, up to the levels where we are now. Unfortunately, now we're getting these new tariff impositions that are higher than what we were hoping. With the UK, a trade neutral country, more like a trade surplus country, depending on how you look at it, they ended up getting a 10% tariff. But what we got with Vietnam was a 20% tariff. And we're like, okay. So it sounds like the 10% during the 90-day pause was indeed a floor, 20% for Vietnam. Can it get worse? Well, yes, it can, because remember, we've still settled at about 55% total for China. We now have the extra potential threat of 10% more if you support BRICS, which is basically a direct threat, not an imposition, to Brazil, India, China, South Africa. Less so mentioning Russia here, because even though Putin wants BRICS, I'm less worried about what Putin wants. Japan just got imposed at 25%. Kazakhstan, 25%. Why you got to do that to Borat? Laos, 40%. Malaysia, 25%. Myanmar, 40%. South Africa, 30%. South Korea, 25%. Myanmar down from 44 on Liberation Day to just 40. So they only got 4 points off from Liberation Day. Laos goes from 48 to 40, so only down 8 points from Liberation Day. Kazakhstan only down 2 points from Liberation Day. South Africa stays at its Liberation Day numbers, and Malaysia actually goes up 1% from Liberation Day, where Japan stays the same at about 25%, though the Japanese tariffs have been really blurry. So, I'm just here following Jack and Max. But anyway, the thing about this is, if scenario number, so now we know the imposition details. Scenario number one is Trump is just being more aggressive because he can. And because these tariffs aren't going into place until August 1, maybe it doesn't really matter. And it's really just another big cardboard that's like, all right, I told you we're going to go dirty. And he's holding up the card of dirty, so to speak. Scenario number two is that countries are like, nah, man, F you. So this is obviously the worst case of any negotiation, that you end up getting strong-armed and you lose. So the only way America loses, and I'm really pro-America, but the way we can lose, and we should be realistic about it, is by other countries forming coalitions against us. This morning we talked about the potential of a coalition of China with the EU, but what we also have to consider is the potential for a coalition of Japan, Vietnam already made an agreement, so less so. Japan, South Korea, China, and the EU, and then South American friends, and otherwise, all of them coalescing together. So it's unclear right now where we are. Again, the two potentials. Potential number one is, this is Donald Trump going, markets are all-time highs, we can afford to be a little aggressive. Potential number two is, this isn't working out, we're going to lash out. Hopefully this is just potential number one, because potential number one, again, we kind of lie in wait until August. We'll see where the buy the dippers are. I'm surprised the dip buying hasn't happened yet already, since people have been so desperate to buy the dip. And I get it, so far buy the dip has been rewarded really since COVID. And, I was one of the big proponents of buy the dip during COVID and even afterwards with our Nike swoosh recovery. I'm not personally the biggest fan of valuations where they are right now, but then again, I also have other opportunities, so maybe I'm just in a different position. Like, I see what we're doing with house hack and AI, and I'm like, why would I buy a public company? I'd rather just buy more of my own stock. Again, I'm biased, right? So just consider that. But broadly, those are the two things that I would be paying attention to. Now, what does this mean over the next 30 days? Well, again, we're not going to see hard data impacts here for months. And that's unfortunately the downside of this kick the can down the road stuff. When we first got liberated, we were supposed to have data in June, July, and August, but we got a pause of 3 months. So it just kicks all the data down the road. So really, you kind of look at Powell, who's in this place of like, bro, I'm waiting for the hard data, but y'all keep pausing and creating exemptions or whatever. We'll see. But I do think we got a little bit of a taste of the frustration this morning when in France, the French were like, hey, we'll do slightly higher tariffs, but only if you exempt all of our major industries. And it's like, ooh, doesn't sound like it's going very well. So I'm hopeful that this is just all yapping. We'll get extensions and we'll be able to negotiate something. But I would say, so far these letters are a little worse than what we were expecting this morning.